abortion. The ACLU argued legislative bills have to stick to a single subject. This may be true.
At Boar's Head, we live for delicious.
But the company is recalling all of its liverwurst products because of possible listeria contamination. 2 deaths have been reported. Dow's up 562 points. Nas ahead 115. This is CBS News.
Sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Get renter's insurance to protect the things that make your place a home, including coverage for theft or damage. Visit Progressive.com.
It's common knowledge that after age 30, our metabolism changes.
I'm Chuck Norris. I tried everything. Working with the team of health experts, we came up with Morning Kick.
Morning Kick has probiotics to help you lose weight, prebiotics for digestion, and powerful anti-aging supplements. Go to roundhouseprovisions.com, use code SAVE, or text SAVE to 511-511 and claim 40% off. SAVE to 511-511.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Tax fees may apply.
Hi, I'm Angie Hicks, co-founder of Angie. When you use Angie for your home projects, you know all your jobs will be done well. Roof repair? Done well. Kitchen sink install? Done well. Deck upgrades? Done well. Electrical upgrade? Done well. Angie's been connecting homeowners with skilled pros for nearly 30 years, so we know the difference between done and done well. Hire high-quality, certified pros at Angie.com.
A history-making speech in Washington.
Today is the 34th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. A congresswoman spoke about it on the House floor yesterday.
I was in college when it passed in 1990. Today, an entire generation has never known life without the protections that exist because of the ADA.
Virginia's Jennifer Wexton delivered what's believed to be the first speech in Congress using a voice cloned by artificial intelligence. She was diagnosed last year with a rare neurological disorder that robbed her of the ability to speak clearly. Steve Kaithan, CBS News.
Just in case you haven't had enough of the Kelsey brothers, Taylor Swift's boyfriend, Chiefs tight end Travis, and retired Eagles center Jason are hawking a new cereal. The Kelsey Mix channels their inner children. It's a combination of their top 3 favorites, Reese's Puffs, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and Lucky Charms. Deborah Rodriguez, CBS News.
WPSL AM 1590, the talk of the Treasure Coast, Seacoast Air Conditioning, and sister station WSTU and Stewart have consistently served you with the latest information about hurricanes and tropical storms over the past 30 years as they've occurred. And now, let's take a look at our forecast from Seacoast Air Conditioning. Partly sunny this afternoon, a 20% rain chance with highs in the low 90s, southeast winds at 5 miles an hour. Tonight, partly cloudy with a slight 20% chance of rain into late tonight and into the early morning hours, becoming light and variable. Saturday, partly sunny with a 50% rain chance and a high in the low 90s. This is Cliff Desmond from WPSL Digital 1590, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
Living in Florida is paradise until your AC breaks down. Seacoast Air Conditioning is family owned and operated for over 40 years. Seacoast Air Conditioning offers service in hours, not days. We answer the phones, show up on time, and fix the problem right the first time.
Comfort crisis, don't roast, call Seacoast.
Dispatch, we're in pursuit. Suspicious group running off the beach. Jumped in a car, now driving towards St. Lucie. Chief says can't pursue on a suspicion. Dispatch, are you sure? They're gonna get away. They could be dangerous. Hold position. Dispatch, they cut through a neighborhood, jumped from the car, scattered through backyards. Pursue them now? No, hold position.
That's the likely scenario if Richard Del Toro becomes sheriff. Backed by the most liberal groups in St. Lucie and touted by the liberal media, Del Toro is propped up by soft-on-crime unions who love Black Lives Matter and support the Democrat agenda. Keith Pearson is our sheriff, appointed by Governor DeSantis. Crack down on illegal immigration. The real Republican, the only conservative. Vote for DeSantis-appointed sheriff, Keith Pearson.
Paid by Keith Pearson, Republican for St. Lucie County Sheriff.
Hi, this is Rabbi Shafir Loeb, inviting you to join us at Congregation Eitz Chaim, your Jewish home on the Treasure Coast. We are inclusive, we are welcoming, we are all things Jewish on the Treasure Coast. We have Kabbalat Shabbat services at Friday evenings at 7:30 p.m. Our sanctuary is at 295 Northwest Prima Vista Boulevard at the corner of Irving in St. Andrews Community Center. Please join us there any Friday. On third Fridays, we have a Shabbat dinner at 6:15 p.m. Reservations can be made at our website, www.eitzchayyim.org. You can stay up to date with us at our website or on Facebook. Lots of different ways to check in with Congregation Eitz Chaim. Again, a welcoming, inclusive Jewish home on the Treasure Coast, just for you to join us and enjoy your Jewishness. Renew your inner Jew at Congregation Eitz Chaim.
This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
10:08 at WPSL, the talk of the Treasure Coast, and time now for Ask a Rabbi with Rabbi Shafir Loeb.
And this is Rabbi Shafir Loeb of Congregation Eitz Chaim, your Jewish home on the Treasure Coast. And wishing everyone a happy Friday and another one of those wonderful tourist Fridays out there. It's beautiful outside.
Are a lot of folks heading down to West Palm Beach to maybe get a glimpse of the Israeli Prime Minister making a visit down into that area?
I have no idea. Not from our group, but, it's far away for us.
Oh, yeah. That's a whole hour to the south, yeah.
Yeah, but it's West Palm Beach
It
traffic.
takes 2 hours to get from where you get off the highway to where you get to Mar-a-Lago and all that. All right.
So, yep, such is life. What can I say? So, yeah, for most of us, we're just doing our regular Friday things, so thank you for that. And so we are into the summer season, and we are moving forward. And this is actually a kind of a rough time on the Jewish calendar because we're getting ready for a holiday called Tisha B'Av. It's not a holiday, it's a commemoration, and that was the destruction of the temple. So, yeah. But it is also the climb back up to Rosh Hashanah, which is the Jewish New Year, or actually the head of the year. So lots of things coming up on the holidays, the busy time. The fall it's an interesting piece. It's a little bit late compared to the Gregorian calendar, or I should say the Gregorian calendar is a little early this year. Calendars, of course, are human-made. They're not God-made, they're human-made. And even though there are months or moons in Scripture, they actually have different names today. Today they have names that come out of the Babylonian exile. The names for the months were brought back from that part of Jewish history. And except for Av, the month we're about to enter, we're in Tammuz now, and Av is next. And calendars are interesting things. As I said, they're man-made. And it's interesting to me that most of the world has settled in on the 7-day week. That's interesting, actually. That's a major influence. But it's a good unit. It's 1/4 of a lunar cycle. So that kind of makes sense. The lunar calendar, of course, being one of the oldest calendars because it's easy to look up in the sky and see what the moon is doing at least once a day. Somewhere in there, you probably see the moon. Or maybe once every 2 days, depending on clouds and where you live. I know in Ohio it was hard to see the moon at night, but here in Florida I see it most nights. In Arizona I saw it almost every night. So yeah, so it's understandable that especially in places along the Silk Road, Jerusalem being one of them, that you would see the moon. Jerusalem is known, except for its rainy season, for having very clear skies. It's one of the things that actually the Crusaders complained about, was that Jerusalem had eternal blue skies in the summer, because their rainy season is in winter. So with that, I'll go kind of on a riff and talk about, there's a prayer that we, excuse me, I'm going to have some of this coffee and knock that frog back down. Get to him before he tries to make me cough. There we go. So the Yeah, I'll get it yet. Love live radio. Nothing like a froggy voice when you have live
Frogs
radio.
that are stubborn.
Yeah, I got it. So, back to the weather. There's a prayer that we say in the service that is, thank you, God, for making and right now it says the dew to fall or dew to come up. And that's actually, it just condenses on the leaves and on objects. And that's a prayer actually for the weather in Jerusalem. And I once had a congregant ask me, why do we pray for Jerusalem? We live here in the U.S. Why aren't we using the U.S. weather cycle, which of course varies greatly depending on where in the U.S. you are, because we cover such a large landmass that we have a lot of different weather systems. But the answer is very simply that you want to have the weather right in Jerusalem, because if the weather's right in Jerusalem, then the weather is right anywhere in the world, because we are connected. We're seeing that more and more, that if one place the weather gets a little off kilter, it messes up the rest of the world. We're not isolated, and to think that we are is to not pay attention to the planet. The planet is clearly a system, and it works as a system. So if one goes up, one goes down. It attempts to balance itself. It's just a natural thing. Doesn't have to be alive to balance itself. Mechanical things balance themselves. Pendulums eventually stop. The world does balance itself. So that's a big piece. And I think it's important to recognize it, right? Jerusalem is considered the center for Jews. And let me go back a little bit. It's not just that the temple was there, which clearly there's archaeological evidence, but the holiness of the site goes back before that. It goes back even earlier. It's supposedly the mountain where Abraham almost sacrificed his son until God stopped him in the book of Genesis. But there's even a legend before that of two brothers who lived in the area of the Temple Mount. And the story was told that one of them was married and had a family, and the other one was young and didn't. And that at night, the married son, or the married brother rather, would, before he went to sleep, he'd think to himself, well, my brother doesn't have a family to help take care of him. He needs to hire people to do things. So I'm going to take a little bit of my wheat that I've collected, and I'm going to take it over to his place so that he has some extra cash to pay for the services that he needs, being single. And at the same time, the single brother, when he would lay down to go to sleep, he would think to himself, oh, my brother, he's got such a big family. He's got so many mouths to feed. He needs a little bit more than I do. I've only got me. And so he would take a little bit of his wheat, and he would at night drop it off anonymously at his brother's house or storage. And the legend says that that is the mount on which the temple is built, the one where brothers care more about each other than they do about themselves. So it's a beautiful story.
A lot of people could benefit from just knowing that.
Yeah. So that's part of the emotional connection. And at the same time, I clearly recognize that Muslims and Christians, which are later religions, also have a connection to the site. And for Muslims, that's where Muhammad, the Prophet Muhammad, ascended to heaven in his dream. He went to the Temple Mount and ascended in his dream. And that's a very famous dream. So there's an emotional connection that way. For Christians, of course, it was the site of the temple. It was the site of some of the Jesus story. And so it's got a connection there. And, it's not like you can carve it up. So here's a couple of things that are not accurate. There's not a mosque on the stone. It's a dome of the rock. It's just a protection for the rock itself, because tourists have been doing things to it since there have been tourists. And so the then Islamic government put a roof over it and isolated the rock so you can't quite get to it. You can look at it, but no touch. and that's their goal. And they do have the washing facilities before going in there, but that's just because that's a desert habit, routine, tradition to wash your hands and feet before you go into places. And that makes a lot of sense if you're very dusty from your travels, you're walking. Because people didn't always wear shoes back then. It's something to remember. And if you did, they probably got into things you don't want to track into a building. So even today, there are people who ask you to take off shoes when you walk into a building. And it's one of the reasons why there isn't carpet in my house. We're tile throughout, because it's a cleanliness issue. It's easier to clean. And those are all things that have influenced life since there's been humans. So, yeah, lots of interesting pieces. So, yeah, so good. Last week was Third Friday. We had our traditional dinner, and to those of you who came, I think we had a good time, and to those of you who didn't, you can come next month at Third Friday. Though we're getting closer, we're probably not going to do it I don't know, we'll probably do it in September. We'll see. The Jewish holidays, as I said, are seemingly late on the Gregorian calendar because the two calendars jiggle to each other. It was a Hebrew leap year this year, and a leap year in the Jewish calendar is an additional month. So it's a whole month. We had Adar 1 and Adar 2, and that pushes us 28 days away from where we might otherwise have been. So would have been very early in September, and now it's actually in October, the Jewish holidays. So looking forward to that busyness, right? Those are hectic holidays for rabbis. And there's a lot of Jewish holidays coming up in the month of October, the month of Tishrei. There is Rosh Hashanah, which is the first day of the month, which starts the night before. And all Jewish holidays start the night before because in scriptures it says it was evening, it was morning, day one. And that's how every day starts in scripture, starts with evening first. And that's easy because you can see the sun going down. And even though it might vary from place to place exactly what time that is, you can still see it unless it's a cloudy day. So lots of interesting things on that. And then, so first day of the year it's actually the first day of the 7th month if you read scriptures. So it's the head of the year. We go up 6 months and down 6 months on the cycle, and it is the first day of the 7th month, but Rosh Hashanah Tishrei. We actually changed the year number because tradition says that it's the anniversary of the creation of Earth. But since we weren't marking calendars before there was a sun, moon, and stars, kind of hard to be sure about that. And the following after Rosh Hashanah is Yom Kippur on the 10th day, a chance to clean your soul by owning the stuff that you've done. It's not just the bad stuff, though. You're also invited to take a cheshbon nefesh, an accounting of the soul. So you're going to look at what are the things that I did well this year. What did I do right? What are the things that I deserve a pat on the back? And then what are the things that I could have done a whole lot better or a little better or somewhere along that continuum? And those are the things that I'm going to ask for some help. I might do some restitution for the harm that I've done to others, whether I intended to or not. I am still liable for the harm. So there's kind of the Jewish concept of there's a difference between harming somebody where you might be physically liable, and there's also the intent to harm or the not caring if you harm that carries a moral responsibility. So there's those pieces. And you're invited to do a cheshbon nefesh, an accounting of both of those kinds of wrongs. And following 5 days after that is Sukkot. We get one more holiday in the season. So you can see there's a lot of Jewish holidays. That's the Festival of Booths. We're invited to dwell in a booth to some level, depending on, some people actually move in and sleep in it, unless it rains. Others simply have a meal in there. Some just go in and have a bite to eat, just enough to be able to recognize the booth. And That's Sukkot, and then 7 days after it is Shmini Atzeret, the convocation of the 8th day. And if you know much about Sukkot, you know you need that day to sober up before going home. And after that is Simchat Torah, the rejoicing of the cycle of the Torah. So look at how many holidays we've packed into just a few weeks. It's a very intense time.
Now, are these known as the High Holy Days?
Yeah, the High Holy Day season, right? The High Holy Day is Yom Kippur, and so it's that season of coming there and then working on it. And as one of my, as Al says over here, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur resolutions, right? Things that people, just as the secular calendar is a chance for starting over, so is the Jewish calendar. And I would offer that you can use every week as a start. You can use every month as a start. In fact, it doesn't hurt to even use some days sometimes, but whatever you need. Whether you need a big change, a little change, one small step forward or a large step forward. We are works in progress. We are not perfect. And that's one of the things that I really try to point out to people. We're not intended to be perfect. We're intended to be perfectly human. And perfectly human means that we are going to make mistakes. We are going to drift. That's just the human condition. And the invitation is to be our better selves as often and as intense and as frequently as we can. So it's both a frequency and an intensity thing that we have some input in, how often we bring ourselves back onto the path to the garden. The recognition of the story of the garden is that the path is there. When you're on it, the angel guards your way, and when you fall off, you're on your own. I think that's a wonderful allegory to think about, that when you drift away from doing what you can and should do, that you're going to suffer your own consequences. There's not going to be any kind of a protection going on there, other than the life instincts themselves. So get back on the path, and the angel is there to guard your way. So, yeah, kind of an interesting way to look at it. And for those who say, well, what a tree of life? Well, we sing every time we take Torah out. It is a tree of life to all who hold fast to it, and all of its pathways are peace. And when I look out at the world, that of course troubles me, because I see that we are not a world at peace. We are not a world where people give each other the dignity and the respect that we are entitled to. I guess I am a follower of Immanuel Kant. It's kind of interesting. I think about that in some funny ways. Germany, of course, has become a major follower of Kant. Human dignity is inviolable, autonomy. It's actually the first part of their constitution that, yes, they wrote it in the shadow of the Holocaust while they were being occupied, but it's still the first part of their constitution, and it is what leads to the way that they treat their prisoners. It's the way they treat each other, and autonomy is the number one thing. You treat people with respect. People are an ends, never a means, and that has led them to have 1/9 or 1/10 of the people incarcerated that we have in the U.S., because they look at prison as rehabilitation, and they have a very low recidivism rate compared to the U.S. So we might maybe want to look at some of that. We are much more into the pursuit of happiness than we are into respecting each other. And I think that's
messed up.
Yes, I agree with that. I agree. But again, as I said, so studying Immanuel Kant is kind of a funny thing for me, because I had to study it in German in college. I needed my years of foreign language credits, and my German was higher than any of the courses that were offered. And so they put me into independent study, and the German professor looked at me and said, "Oh, you're in philosophy, Immanuel Kant in German." And he is difficult to read in English let alone in German. So I struggled through that semester, wrote my paper in German. It was a challenge. And you're right, Al, incarceration is monetized, and it's big business. It's not just monetized. It's warehousing people, and they want to warehouse people that they think they can keep because that's where the big money is. And we have the biggest prisons in Germany have maybe 1,000 to 2,000 to 3,000 people, whereas the U.S. prisons are huge. We've got prisons that hold up to 14,000 people. And it's not just in Florida, Al. It's all over. It's monetized. We even have monetized immigration, if you think about it a minute.
Monetized immigration?
We round up people and put them into private held staging areas.
Because the cartels are smuggling people, and they're charging them terrible amounts.
The coyotes are definitely, coyotes are charging people to come and not treating them well and not giving them what they promise them. There's a whole lot of garbage in that, and the U.S. plays its role because when it returns somebody back into Mexico, then the coyotes can grab them again and get more money out of them. Yeah, it's an interesting cycle. And that's been going on since I was a young person and lived in California. I knew it was going on then. So it's not new. Nothing
new.
Yeah, no, it's been going on for administration after administration because I've been around since the dinosaurs. So, in fact, the standard joke when I lived not far from the border was that most of the folks that were being deported would be back in the States before the person who drove them back down into Mexico made it back. Yeah, and so to that point, most of the people who are undocumented actually are people who have overstayed their visas. They came in legally. What's not legal is that they've overstayed their visa, which is a different issue. You need to renew your visa. If you're a day worker, you need to renew that. You're supposed to go home at night, but many of them, because of the travel involved and the challenge coming back in, not that they can't get a day paper the next day, they can, but it's a travel issue. It's an expense issue. And so they overstay and then they become part of the culture here. Then they do the work that most people won't do. They take the jobs that nobody wants for money that nobody would be willing to do it for. So life would be more expensive without keeping that artificial piece on it. And Al, you're right again. It's objectivizing people, right? So it is doing exactly what Kant says is improper, which is using people as a means rather than as an ends. And if you other somebody, and we can tell when somebody others people by the language they use. When they use derogatory language, they're trying to convince their brains that these humans are less than human somehow, or that there's some kind of a better or worse human. And yes, Al is bringing up Project 2025, Agenda 47. And it's not new, undocumented. There's a line in a Tom Lehrer song that comes to mind, and it's even in Egypt, the pharaohs had to import Hebrew braceros. And bracero is the word that was used in, undocumented workers, because you can force them to do things that others won't. They are disposable people, is the word that's been coined. There's a great clip out of Star Trek where Whoopi Goldberg is talking to Picard, right, where she's sitting at the bar with him and she's talking about disposable people. And he looks at her and he says, "You're talking about slavery." And she says, "Oh, that's a little harsh." And but it's not, right? That's the whole point of it. And yes, you're right. Project 2025 would be, not something that I think, it's scary. And it's one of the things that we've seen, right? Hitler did everything that he wrote in Mein Kampf. He told us he was going to do it, and he did it. And now we've got Project 2025. And that's a group of people telling us that they want to radically take away human rights. And if we let them, they've told us they were going to do it. I'll leave it at that. It's just, that's a despicable piece of writing. And it's clearly not fabricated because the people who wrote it are advertising it. It's one of the differences today. So nobody's putting words in their mouths. And if you don't know what that is, look up Project 2025 or Transition 2025. And yeah, scary, scary concepts. The idea that you're going to get rid of people who are skilled and knowledgeable and who give so much information to Americans and replace them with political appointees whose goal will be simply to sit there. It's very scary. We'll see productivity. It's 1984, folks, in many, many ways. Little later than the book by George Orwell, but it's that kind of a scenario.
So it's kind of scary how that's come out with our big brother looking over our shoulder at all these cameras everywhere.
Well,
with facial recognition.
Yeah, I don't know that that's scary. I mean, it makes it harder for a criminal. And yes, it also makes it easier for somebody who's going to oppress.
Hackers can get into your home.
And there are safeguards that you can do for that. And there are ways to protect that. And it's a technology race. And it's not unlike the technology race that I, as a professor, face with my students. Right? They've got cheating software, and then there are detectors that detect it, and then there are those
plagiarized AI.
Yeah. Yeah. So now there are humanizers to humanize your AI, but it actually makes it worse because AI is not that good. And Al says Putin is pleased, and that's true because our enemies would like nothing better than for us to be replicas of them. And it's going to come in not from the cry against those who would be communists, but it's going to come from those who pretend to not be. Because the reality is that Russia and China are not communist countries. They're oligarchies. Slightly different word, and it does not mean that people share things or that the common folk have it even as good as they used to. It's just another way for the rich to glom onto what they've glommed onto. It's a rough time in our society. I think we are fighting a war of keeping America free and people's liberties at stake. I think we could learn a lot from Germany and how they operate. And somebody once asked me where I think I might move if I didn't stay in the U.S. and Germany might not be a bad place.
I've got a friend that moved to Germany, and he texted me a while back when we got back in touch, and he said that they have more freedom in Germany than the citizens of the United States have.
Yeah.
I thought, wow,
they do.
Sounds weird.
They have, because of that autonomy rule.
Yeah.
Right. So they've got a lot of freedom, and they've got a very low crime rate. That they're directly related. Here's one of the big differences between German prisons and American prisons. German prisons are run by psychologists, and it takes 2 years of training to become a staff worker in a German prison, and they only accept about 10% of those that apply. And so, only 10% of those that apply, so they're getting the cream of the cream, and they're putting them through 2 years before they ever go out into the hallways of the prison. And what they're learning to do is to teach inmates how to calm down and control themselves. Because the reality is that when you allow anger, we've got a society that's very angry. We allow anger. We excuse it. We excuse anger. We excuse rape. We excuse so much violence that is not okay. And sometimes they'll do it on the guise of, well, that's my right to be that. And it's not your right to hurt someone else. That's the piece. And that's what Germany gets. It's not okay to hurt somebody else. It's not okay to intentionally insult them. It's not okay to physically aggress or emotionally aggress against another human being. So, yeah, the irony of that. And so I want to thank the person who asked that question, because I'd really been thinking about it, and there are some challenges that, yeah, I'm not sure exactly where I would go if I left the U.S. I'm not planning to. I'm hoping that it doesn't become necessary. I like my life here. I served in the military in the U.S. I'm married to a veteran. We take it very seriously. But yeah, there's not that many places that I'd rather be, but there are a few that have a good life. As you said, Germany has a lot of good things going for it. It's got a very cultured kind of society. And we tend to look down on other countries, but getting to know them. I've got friends who live in Italy who love it there too. I'm not sure that that would work for me for a couple of other reasons. But yeah, those are all valid questions. So this is as good a time as any to mention Change of Mind. Change of Mind is where I'm doing my internship, so I am a mental health counselor there. And if you have Aetna or Cigna or private pay, then I'd be thrilled to work with you. Other therapists there can work with you if you have other insurances. They take many there. The number at Change of Mind is 772-284-6030. Again, 772-284-6030. And ask for Rose or Mary Ellen when you call that number. It's at the offices are at 314 Northwest Bethany Drive. That's right behind where the Bills and the home store is. There's a set of offices behind there, all the way through Publix. You can get back to those offices. It's one of the ones we're right about, almost in the middle of that row of offices. 314 Northwest Bethany Drive, Port St. Lucie 34986, and therapists there can help you with things like depression, anxiety, anger management, family conflict, gender issues, trauma and complex trauma, dissociative disorders, and we're now doing testing, PDDBI, and dyslexia. And I am operating as an intern under the supervision of Eric Lever, who is also there at Change of Mind. Excellent therapist, as is Keith and the others that are there. So you can also go on mychangeofmind.com, and you can set up an account there and even get everything going just online. So something to think of if there's something you'd like some help with. So mental health counseling is not only for those who have problems, but it actually can also just help anybody have a better life to achieve who and what they really can be. As it says, helping you deal with everyday issues in life, finding resolutions and suggesting ways to encourage a better quality of life. So you don't have to be sick to see a therapist. You simply have to want something better than what you have. And there's nothing wrong with wanting something better, even if you're happy and healthy right now. So that's Change of Mind here in Port St. Lucie. If you'd like me as a therapist, again, I can accept Cigna, Aetna, and private pay. So, yeah, I've got another year to go on my internship, and then we'll have the full Florida license. I've got one more semester to go with Liberty, which is unfortunately one of the signers of that Project 2025.
You're a lifelong student.
I am a lifelong student. I love learning. I enjoy it. It stimulates me.
Is there a point to where you're going to be satisfied with all that education, or are you?
No, probably when I stop. Probably when I stop breathing. There's at least 3 or 4 different things that I'd love to study. And taking a college course is an excellent way to learn something because it's a very organized way to do it. Yes, I could learn things from great courses. Wondrium, that's a great program. I enjoy it. I use it when I'm not in classes. And you can certainly learn things from YouTube. And thank you, Al. I'd love to have you have
But be
somebody.
aware to watch the sources of the YouTube messages.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing with the college. It's much easier to see if it's a reasonable college or not. If it's accredited, it's got to meet certain minimum standards. And that's valuable. And nowadays you can do it online, you can do it in person, whatever works best for you. And so many different ways to do education that it's well worth doing. So, yeah, those are all really great things. And it's a chill kind of time. We've got a couple more weeks at IRSC to the summer B, and then we're going to have a week off, and fall starts again. Kaiser, we just finished up term C of summer, and D starts Monday. It goes for 1 month, and then we have 1 week off, and fall starts. So everybody's getting ready for fall. Schools are going to be doing it. It's an intense time of year. School supplies are out in the store, and I've noticed them more and more, and that's a good thing. 'Cause I use some of those. Got a caller coming in? We'll see.
There's somebody else in the office that.
Okay, so it's an office call. Yeah, those happen too. So if you'd like to call in and talk, you certainly can do that too. That's 772-340-1590. So again, 772-340-1590 if you'd like to talk to this rabbi or ask her a question. And so you've got...
I heard you answer a couple of questions, so there's somebody watching on a website and
Yeah.
asking questions in the chat room, right?
Right. That's exactly right. So you can see me on Facebook. It's both on my and on the congregation's Facebook pages. And of course, the station puts it out on YouTube.
Right.
So you can go see Ask a Rabbi's, both this show, archives, and the older shows. And we've been doing this for quite a while. I don't know how many of those are, but I now know that when I Google myself, what comes up are the YouTube Ask a Rabbi's.
Oh, yeah.
So I
We try
appreciate
to keep
it.
that nice and strong with hashtags. That's why I'm taking notes over here.
Okay. Yes. Hashtags are useful, and I need to put more of those in other places.
But likes and shares are also wonderful. They do wonders for your algorithms.
And we do have somebody, so that means I've got to line one. Okay, I'm putting on the headset so I can hear it. So go ahead, line one.
Good morning, Rabbi. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well. Thank you for calling.
Yeah, I've got a question for you. And I was listening. I heard you bring up this project 2025. I understand there's about 900,000 pages breaking down the complexities of this thing and what it's all about. How many of those pages have you read? How much of it had you read?
I have read a fair chunk of it. They have a website up where they've got it printed out, they're not making it a secret. They're right out there telling you. And the detail starts out with a lot of detail right away. So you don't have to get very far into it to get at least for me, to get very scared. And yeah, so no, I'm not going to pretend that I've read it all. I haven't. But I have read a chunk of it. And I invite anybody else to do that. Go on the website. You can Google it. You can find it right away. And it tells you who are the signers, who are the fabricators, who are the supporters. They're not being secret. This is not a secret takeover. It's a very public one.
Would that be a total change of the Constitution?
It would be a way around it. It would be a way to eliminate civil liberties. Yes.
And one last question. What group of people, or what, is there a particular political party that's trying to implement this Project 2025?
Well, if you look at the names that are on the website that are supporting it, you'll find that some of them had been cabinet members in a previous president's cabinet. And if you look around on it, then you'll see that it's got quite a few names associated with it. As I said, I'm unhappy that Liberty University is one of the one of the architects, I guess that's the right word for it, one of the architects on Project 2025. Yeah, it actually was started, when they first started, they called it Transition 2025, because the idea was to implement it once they had somebody in office that they could put it into structure under. And
so Liberty University would fit in that category, I imagine, of far-right political group? Religious political group?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, you might want to check it out. It's on the web. You can find it. It's not a secret.
Okay.
And as I said, you can find it either under Project 2025 or Transition 2025. Yeah. I invite everybody to please go look at it, become informed, so that you don't become surprised. And yeah. So that we're not hearing enough about it. One of the people on Facebook is saying that if we were on a foreign media, then we'd hear a lot more about it. We're not hearing a lot about it. It's being kept kind of quiet because I think they don't want to scare people. But it's out there, it's not a secret, and they're trying to publicize it to their base. So, yeah.
Well, the first time I heard about it was probably 3 to 4 months ago on a radio program on WPSL. So that made me try to learn as much about it as I could. And you're right by telling the people to take a look at it. And
I'm not telling you. I'm not telling you what to think about it. Go look at it and make up your own mind and see what you think of it. And hopefully we'll hear more about it. Thank you for the comment that you heard about it first on WPSL. We are an important part where we are the talk of the Treasure Coast. That's not. That's a title that we take seriously. So thank you for that. And I didn't get your name.
Thank you, Rabbi.
And thank you. Okay. Whoa. Okay. That was so. Obviously, that was a question about Transition or Project 2025. And if you haven't read it, please go up on the website. They've got a website. It's not like you can't find it. But what we're not hearing is a whole lot of talk on it because it's a scary document. And I'm not thrilled by the people that are architects on it. It's a think tank project. So it is a far right think tank. And I sincerely hope it never gets implemented because we're going to really see, more than an erosion, we're going to see a collapse of a lot of the things that we need to work on. And I think that people may be surprised by how and what is in there. So, yeah, that's my invitation. Go out and read it. Don't take my word for it. Come to your own conclusions. And if you think, the Cox, of course. So when you see the names on it, you might become as scared as I am. And you have to realize that people inside America are trying to bring it down from the inside. And that's that kind of a document. And I wouldn't be surprised if it has some really strong foreign support, for we have been far too powerful in the world for some of the other world players. And what scares them is American freedoms for its people erodes their power. So, yeah. And Al, I hear you. Cox's parents and Nanny helped Hitler, and I understand that. And that's a scary thought, but I'm not going to, the Cox have done enough on their own without worrying about what their parents and Nanny did. We've got some ugly ancestors in a lot of family lines. It doesn't mean that that people will be that way now. Right? Ford Motors was one of the worst anti-Semites around, but the company is not now.
I had never heard that.
You'd never heard that? Oh, Google that one, Cliff.
Okay.
Look at that one.
Ford anti-Semitism.
Ford anti-Semitism. Right, Henry Ford, the original.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Not, as I said, not now. The company is very different from the company that he started, and some of the stuff that he did in Detroit and its surrounding areas. So, yeah, ugly people have helped build America. That doesn't make America any less beautiful. Because right now we've got a system that seems resilient, and that's to me the big danger of Project 2025, is it wants to erode that inner structure from inside. And just as the Twin Towers collapsed because the inner core melted, that's what that would do to the country. And I think we've got something to offer the world by being strong and being powerful. This is my country, and as I said, I've got military background. I care a lot about it. I want it to thrive, and I want it to be a beacon. And I've been to the Statue of Liberty, folks. I'm really going to date myself now. I've been up in the Crown. I did not make it up into the Arm. It was closed long before I was old enough to trek all of those flights of stairs up into the Crown. That's no small walk. Yeah, and I think the walk down is just as bad as the walk up, because by then your legs are rubber. But I have looked out into the harbor from her crown with great pride. So I can say that, yes, I was born in America, and I have lived elsewhere, and I am American by choice. And because of that, I care a lot about what happens. I want our government strong. I don't want it in my business per se, but I want it strong, and I want it protecting my business. And I want it protecting my civil liberties. I want to know that I can do what I choose as long as I don't come closer than an inch to anybody else's nose. And that was what my 4th grade teacher taught, and he was right. Yeah, our liberties end at a certain point, and protecting those is really important. We don't do it as well as Germany does. I don't want to have to go through what Germany went through to get there. I would hope we can be smarter and stronger and make some of the changes that we need as a society. And those are hard changes, and they're not going to happen fast. I recognize that. The government isn't fast moving. So this is as good a time as any to give the plug for the congregation. It's Congregation Eitz Chaim, your Jewish home on the Treasure Coast. We meet at 295 Northwest Prima Vista Boulevard, and that's at the corner of Irving. And if you turn on Irving, it's the first turn on the left, and we're the first building when you come into the complex at St. Andrews, and that's St. Andrews Lutheran Church at the corner of Prima Vista and Irving. We meet there Friday nights at 7:30. Services are open to anyone who wants to come, and that's Friday evenings at 7:30.
And third Friday is the Shabbat dinner?
Is the Shabbat dinner. You can make a reservation dinners before the service, and that's chicken and brisket, and usually not a whole lot left, and that's not because there isn't a ton of food walking to the door, because it's heavy, I carry it, I know. And but you're welcome to join us for that. And yeah. And you can also go to the website, which is www.eitzchaim.org, eitzchaim.org, and yeah, make that work. So, yay.
About 2.5 more minutes to
Yeah, we've
left.
got just a couple of minutes. If somebody'd like to call in, it's 772-340-1590. I know that when you do Swap Shop, Cliff, you get people who call in. And an invitation to you, to anyone who'd like to call in.
I think they're especially fond of my tap dancing when they don't call.
Yes, you do a great job of tap dancing. I'm not doing anywhere near as good a job of tap dancing today as I sometimes do. But we are, as I said, drawing to a close at the semesters. I'll probably be talking more about the close at IRSC next week, because that'll be their last week. They end in the beginning of August, and then mid or fall term starts in August. Kaiser will be in their summer D term. Kaiser, of course, does 1 month classes here in the Port St. Lucie campus. If you go to Flagship, they do a regular longer semester, either 8 or 16-week courses, depending on the program. But at Port St. Lucie, what you do is you take one course for a month, you do it intensely, you do 4 one-month courses in a term. And that way, you march through. And students are finishing their programs a lot faster because Kaiser operates year-round and has summer terms as well. And if you need to take a month off, you can do that. You just don't take a class one of the terms. Take an interrupt, and that works out well. But I really like the idea that students get very intense in a subject. You get to know it well. You're not splitting your time. And of course, one of the other big benefits is you're not hitting finals week for 4 or 5 classes at a time. You're doing one at a time, so you can actually prepare for it better, I think. But I love both ways of teaching. I love teaching at both campuses, at both IRSC and at Kaiser. And I just love teaching. I guess that's the bottom. I love learning and I love teaching.
They both work hand in hand now.
They do work hand in hand. And I tell my students that I hope I'm a better professor because I'm also a student. So I know the things that frustrate and irritate me, and I try not to do those to my students.
I like how teachers can inspire students.
Yeah, I hope so. You know, to me, it's significant that students recognize me years after they've been in class with me. I have people walk up to me, all different places, Publix and restaurants, and you know, just anywhere that I'm out and about, I might have a student walk up to me. So I definitely understand that, and I hear it. And there's the wonderful music that's telling us we're drawing to a close. So please join me any Friday on Ask a Rabbi, and that's at 10:05 right here on WPSL. This is Rabbi Shafir Loeb for Congregation Eitz Chaim, your Jewish home on the Treasure Coast.
With archives on YouTube, just go to WPSLTV.com and binge watch some Ask a Rabbi programming.
There you go.
You're welcome to do that. Thanks again, Rabbi.
You're welcome. Thank you, Cliff.
And this is WPSL, Port St. Lucie, the top of the Treasure Coast.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Dr. Marty's Nature's Blend Dog Food.
I'm Steve Kathan. A scene of destruction in Northern California. CBS's Jonathan Vigliotti is covering a big wildfire near the city of Chico that's now the state's largest this year.
Fire crews say wind-carried debris is sparking new flames, making the fire's path unpredictable.
This fire has fingers that are growing in different directions depending on which way the wind is blowing.
Julia Yarbo witnessed her dream home burn down in real time through her security camera.
It's surreal. It really is surreal.